Cambria was built on a buy and build strategy, as you know, so buying broken businesses and accommodating and turning around very quickly with sort of 100-day plans. The platforms that we have now within the website means we can buy a business today. By tomorrow, we'll be live on a site and we'll have stock going out to third-party channels immediately. So that's very much an integration from the technical side. But then it's really sort of bringing the new associates, we call them associates or staff, with you, educating them in there, and just bringing the culture to them as well, understanding their culture. When we generally have bought broken business before in the past, we very quickly put in our own CSI from consumers that are buying from us, so we can understand how we can improve that service. And generally, you can get your answers very quickly of how you can do that. But I think there's a number of groups now that are used to the acquisition trail now and have that plan to turn businesses around and make them profitable quite quickly.
Hello and welcome to the AM News Show. Today, joining us are two expert marketeers from AM100 dealer groups. We've got Vicky Hart, who's the head of marketing from Hendy's, and also we've got Ian Godbold, who is the marketing director of Cambria Automobiles. So Vicky, Ian, what would you say is the key learning that's come out of the last kind of 3 years for digital marketing?
For me, I think probably just how much we can do digitally. I think as we'd probably all acknowledge, the pandemic accelerated everything that we do online. And actually, as an industry, as a business, we rose to the challenge. We reflected on our processes, how we did things operationally, and actually started to put digital first. And I think we've proved how agile we can be. So I think that the biggest learning for me is just how capable and agile we can be.
Absolutely. Same for you, Ian?
Yeah, you mentioned there how it's accelerated the sector. Certainly with the disruptors coming to the market as well, which has been actually good for the market because it has accelerated the businesses and competitors, and it's great now. You've got a full omni-channel strategy now with direct and offline. So it's a changing place and getting faster.
Do you think more staff have now increased their digital skill sets as a result of the kind of pace of change in the industry?
Without doubt, absolutely. They've had to do that because all consumers now want to review digitally, and click and collect was a big part of that. And getting used to that and giving the associates that training during that time was good. You know, the actual dealers being shut in the sales area was actually give the opportunity for further training, certainly within our group.
I think certainly to echo what Ian's just said, that the skill set and the digital skills of our team have increased superbly. We now offer personalised video. We're encouraging consumers to engage with us across multiple digital touch points. And actually there's a real enthusiasm and kind of thirst for it in our business. I've been really pleasantly surprised by how people have responded to that challenge. And we are just doing so much more digitally now.
You have to wonder, in a way, how far it's going to go, don't you? Certainly we've seen a growing small proportion of consumers looking to do more and more digitally. But I don't know about you, but I wonder whether the majority are really going to kind of want to go that far into more and more contactless purchasing. Actually, they still want the human to be able to help them when they need it, don't they?
I think certainly the data and the behaviour that we see through our customer engagements suggests that customers want the flexibility to be able to deal with us in the way that's most convenient for them. Convenience certainly is paramount, and kind of ease of access to the services and the information that they're looking for. We're seeing customers very readily move in and out of online and offline, so wanting to complete parts of their journey online, then transition into the physical retail environment, and they actually quite often transition back to online for certain other parts of the journey. And for us, what it's about is essentially making sure we can be where the customer needs us to be when they need us to be there. And again, coming back to my earlier point, operationally being set up to support that.
How successful have you been at this point in tying up those two journeys, making it a consistent flow that people can return to and staff at the dealership can access that customer journey and the customer data when they need to progress it in a quite seamless fashion?
I think it's fair to say we're still on a journey, and we probably will be for some time. I think we've improved significantly, particularly over the last 12 months. We're learning more about how we can make it more efficient for our teams to access that information, because ultimately and fundamentally our core aim is to make sure that our customers have the best possible experience, and increasingly tying up that online and offline information and exchange is really of paramount importance.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. And it's you want it as seamless as possible. So bringing that omni-channel strategy and it's blended together. We've invested a lot of money within tech within Cambria, and certainly, and you mentioned there consumers going online and then coming into the dealership. I think that's always going to be there. That's always going to be a big case that you've got to give consumers as much opportunity as they can to complete as much as they want to online and then finish it in store. But also, what we do see, exactly what Vicky just mentioned there, is the amount of consumers that have been in store, then have gone back and then picked up that journey. And I think what's absolutely key there is personalisation for the consumer to pick up that journey from where they left off. And obviously that's been evolving in the last couple of years, as we know, with certain dealers. But I think that's absolutely key going forward. But it's about giving them the convenience, what you just mentioned there, and that seamless journey to make it easier for them to purchase a vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested. I'm constantly interested in the changing relationship between the retailer and the manufacturer. Obviously, manufacturers are trying to develop their own direct to customer retail and relationships as well. How important is it that retailers, where they've got the capacity to do so and the investment, still develop their own online channels if the manufacturer is doing the same thing and probably trying to channel customers that way, your customers that way? Vicky, have you got an answer there? You're nodding, but it's a bit of a head scratcher, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely it is. And we work incredibly well with our manufacturer partners to try and ensure that we can, between us, offer the best solutions for our customers ultimately. From my perspective, and at Hendy, we have built a lot of equity in our brand, and actually it's really important for us that customers who have dealt with us through multiple purchases can continue to do that in the way that's most convenient for them. So for me, it's absolutely critical that retailers can offer those parallel levels of convenience and make it really, really easy for Hendy customers to stay with Hendy.
I think, well, I agree with that, but I think the retailers are actually ahead of the OEMs in a lot of this, understanding the consumer, where the data lies, and just servicing what the consumer requires. I think you look at some of the big groups and what they've done with implementation of apps, etc., and keeping that consumer. It's only a benefit for the consumer. It's about making their journey as easy as possible, and for them to be able to do business and make it easy and simple to do business.
Absolutely. I wonder, we were talking about, obviously, the disruptors, the arrival of Cazoo and Cinch, and which, they're now an inextricable part of the sector. They're part of everything we do, and they've influenced a lot of people. Do you think COVID or the arrival of those guys is what's really propelled digital innovation in car retail?
I would say both. I would say, I think for car retail, I mean, if you look at retail on the whole, collect at store was always a big thing, 5 or 6 years ago, and the good retailers done it really well. I mean, it's a case we've had the ability for collect at store. We've certainly been running since 2017, but it's been there. It's not really been promoted. All of a sudden, when the consumers had to use it, and then the dealers wanted to sell, they had to understand what the process is and how that works. You mentioned personalised videos of taking that dealership to the consumer directly. I think that really did propel it. But there's no doubt, with the disruptors coming in and the budgets they've had and getting the word out about our sector, it's made a big impact as well. And I think it's been positive for the sector.
I would agree. I think COVID has driven demand or arguably even forced demand for that. But actually, the disruptors have done a really good job for us as retailers of educating consumers actually about just how much they can do remotely. I think that as retailers, we do have a really distinct advantage in that we can offer customers who aren't quite comfortable going all the way, that kind of hybrid model, that omni-channel approach where we can deal with them in the way they're most comfortable.
I also think it's been a bit of a shock for the disruptors that how agile the dealer sector's been. It's not been the pushover that they thought it was going to be, and they've responded very, very well.
Yeah, I think, and they've demonstrated actually, what we do isn't easy. Actually, I think, we're doing a really good job of responding to that.
Absolutely. I think as well, the industry is, as you kind of said, the industry's benefited, I guess, by the marketing power of some of the disruptors, the tremendous amounts that they're spending on making consumers aware that there are different ways to buy cars, which ultimately franchise dealers and independents are able to service as well. So everybody benefits from that in a way. I'm interested, and in terms of the perspective, obviously you're both from major AM100 groups. What would you say would be the kind of key tools, key processes, key pieces of advice, I guess, for the smaller scale dealer who's also got to disrupt their business and cope with the kind of the rapid pace of change? What's the sort of one piece of advice you'd give to a smaller dealer trying to adapt?
For me, I think it would be focus on your process. It's very easy now with the range of tools and technologies at our disposal to get carried away with perhaps the art of the possible. But critically, it needs to be aligned with your operational process, because otherwise it will be your customers that feel that friction point. So absolutely, just focusing on process. How will you align these new digital processes, tools, with what your customers will experience when they enter the physical retail environment?
It's not back to basics, is it? It's about a case of how you do incorporate that journey. At the end of the day, any independent will tell you it's about giving a great service, a world-class service to consumers. They'll come back, and how you integrate that. Well, actually, the independents, they can be quicker and agile than some of the bigger groups.
I think before we came in, Vicky, did I overhear you talking about particularly social media and how you guys have changed your managing of that customer contact point? I was keen to know sort of how hands-on staff in the business are with social media responses and those communications, those digital communications with customers, really. And also, if you see a time, if there's a time now where AI and bots, can effectively manage that side of the customer journey.
Yeah, so we manage our social media centrally, but in conjunction with kind of distinct digital champions kind of within the business across the various different brands that we represent. I think that we focus on delivering great customer experience via that channel, because we recognise that increasingly customers are reaching out to us via that channel, perhaps rather than picking up the telephone or submitting an inquiry form as that they might previously have done. So for us, it's about kind of balancing response time with response quality and being able to service customers in the best way possible. In terms of AI and bots are something that we use in part around our live chat provision. So we do use those to support our customers out of hours, and we're continuing to experiment with that. So right now we're using it with kind of FAQs and things that the bot can really easily share with the customer. But we have limited our use of that to date. We wherever possible, we want to have one of our colleagues talking to our customers, because we believe that's the world-class customer service that we strive to deliver.
How about at Cambria then, Ian? Is AI coming into things, or is it a personal touch?
It's very much personal touch, very much the same as what Vicky just mentioned there. We're using bots for out of hours for our live chat provision. We're not there yet on AI. On the social media side yet, very much listening to what consumers are saying, but a reputation management in there as well. But we've integrated our social media strategy in our whole content marketing piece there, because one thing we identified is you see a number of posts that get posted on social, but it's not joined up in any way, shape or form towards the content that's on the site and what the promotion is. And we see that from OEM and we see that from other dealers. And I think it's about how you integrate social media into your whole content marketing strategy. One area we do focus on is social stock. It's getting our stock out there through the socials, and for consumers, for retargeting, so they're actually used to seeing that vehicle when they've been online. They've seen the vehicle. They've then seen the vehicle again during their journey. So it's not just a post that's out there. It's something that means something to them.
For me now, it's not. We never go to a customer complaints department anymore. If something negative happens in our customer journey or our ownership experience, get on social media, you get a response, don't you? Is that the concern now, that you have to be really quick heading off the negative above and beyond anything else?
I think we do, but we would do that via any channel, because if somebody's had a negative experience, we want to put that right. I'm really proud to say that we equally get a lot of customers reaching out to us with pictures of their cars on the drive at home. And actually, we mustn't lose sight of the fact that it's a really emotive purchase. And actually, we get some great customer-driven content about how pleased they are with their purchase. We've even had customers send us their own video reviews of their vehicles. We get really good positive and constructive feedback via social media, and we would always strive to respond to all of that very quickly and efficiently.
It's all part of the reputation building piece, though, isn't it? I
Absolutely.
guess.
Yeah, and I think the content marketing point that Ian made is a really valid one, because I think groups of all sizes, retailers of all sizes are very good at the community management piece. But actually, there's another layer to this in terms of that listening activity to really inform what your content marketing strategy should look like. So actually understanding what questions, comments are consumers making that we're not answering right now. And let's go and do that and make sure that we're generating content that answers that.
Yeah, but I'm keen to throw a grenade into the works while we're getting to the midway stage of the interview. We've seen it over the last few years, all sorts of different market entrants coming in and trying to disrupt, particularly the classified area of the business, and how people take the product to market the vehicles they've got. With everything at our disposal now, how is Auto Trader got still such a strong hold on the market, and will we see a time where people start to manage that marketing channel a little bit differently and rely more on social media and other forms of promotion?
I think so. I mean, Auto Trader is still very, very dominant, and we know the quality of the lead that's generated through there, and the tools they have available is excellent. I think though there's not a reliance on them. Certainly not within our business. We will cut across all classifieds, integrate search and social. We will run two strategies. We run our content marketing strategy, and we run what we call a velocity strategy, which is using new cars. So I think it's how you want to go to market yourself, and how you divide up that budget. Like everything we do always boils down to what is the CPL, what is the cost per lead. Now, it's whether that's a tenancy agreement, a cost per click agreement, or whatever. We'll always work it back to, okay, so what is that cost per lead? What is the conversion through that channel? And what is the cost per sale? Is that cost per sale in line with our overall marketing side? So we can move that across and change dials. We have been in a position before where we have a reliance on one channel, and that's a risk to the business. And I think it's got to be an even cure. And if you're managing it from a CPL side to a cost per sale side, you'll get the best mix, and you can choose to move up and down. Saying that, would you ever come off Auto Trader? We certainly wouldn't.
That's the fixed marketing cost, isn't it? Every year, and everything else seems to move, but.
It's the one, and for me, what I would say, and I have this challenge from some of my dealers to say, why don't I come off and go here, because I'm getting a great return from my search, from my social media. At the end of the day, if you can't make Auto Trader work, you're doing something fundamentally wrong. Okay, and that will just boil down to merchandising, pricing, or retail rating of the stock you're buying. It's as simple as if you can't make the number one market channel work, that's down to you.
Is it an annual struggle to justify that cost, or as Ian says, is Auto Trader it remains the staple really, and everything else fits around?
There's an acknowledgement in our business that Auto Trader will always be one of those channels that we advertise across, in the same way as Ian mentioned that we advertise across multiple classified platforms. I think the critical thing for us is, again, analysing the return. We all widely acknowledge that customers are looking at an increasing number of sites, 18 plus, as part of their research journey. So actually, Auto Trader forms part of a journey whereby a customer may be presented with our stock multiple times in multiple places. And actually, if nothing else, that reinforces our presence as a business, as a retailer, to be in all of those places. So I think, it's one channel via which we advertise our stock. But as Ian says, their advertising spend, their presence in the market means that they are a significant player.
It's interesting. We've gone down the route of looking at attribution models and being out there, and we had a tool a few years ago, which never got to fruition at the end, but it gave us enough insight. Whereas there were some channels on there that actually, if you looked at last click attribution, you think, well, why would you be on there? But they were such a key role as part of the influence, where, as we were just saying, the amount of sites that consumer have been on. So you start asking the question, okay, so if I wasn't on that site, would they have found a competitor's car and then gone off that way? Or had they seen that car again and that become the influence? And now with the retargeting tools that are out there that most people are using, the car they've looked at's following them around anyway. So it's quite key. But it's knowing that and trying to understand that, because if you just sat there and just looked at it saying, okay, what's my last click, you would only ever be on Auto Trader, and that's not the way it works. You need to have that whole mix and make sure your marketing mix is effective, and always turning those dials non-stop to get conversion up and cost per lead and cost per sale down.
And I think as our approaches to marketing become more sophisticated, actually the last click attribution model no longer works. I think what we have to acknowledge is that every one of the channels that we use as part of our strategy has its place in the funnel. And actually, we need to then dial our marketing budgets to actually recognise where our conversions are coming from and how much value we place on driving consumers into that funnel at various stages. Last click attribution, I think, is not something that we use anymore, but historically is always something that we focused on.
In terms of this year, with the challenges that we're seeing in the market, with the reduced supply, now with a cost of living crisis hitting us, so how have you both in your businesses evolved the message, and how do you approach a sales business where orders are the order of the day, as it were? I'll go to you first, Ian. It's a complicated mix, isn't it? Now?
Yeah, it is complicated, and obviously we know supply of new cars has been reduced because of the chip issues, but we're starting to see it free up a little bit more now, so they're coming through. Used cars, as we know, in the last couple of months, I'll use the word soften, but I still think the market is hot. But we're moving back to a market that we're used to, i.e., we're seeing a depreciating asset rather than an appreciating asset. So I think it's going back to those velocity trading and understanding of, okay, maximising the conversion, maximising the sale, but spinning that car and reducing the days in stock. Where previously you could buy a car 30 days later, it was worth more, and you throw out your 60-day over age strategy because it didn't work because the car was worth more. But I think it's going back to now a much more traditional market, and that's good. So it'd be back to the dealers really sort of focusing on the data, and making sure we're buying it right again and selling it right and converting the leads that we've got.
I think interestingly, to Ian's point around stock scarcity with new vehicles right now, we're seeing much more of a consumer focus on availability rather than perhaps some of the price-led messaging that we'd seen in the past. Actually, the conversations are much more about what can I get hold of rather than how much is it going to cost? I think there's a much greater awareness driven by a lot of what's been in the media that there are wait times, there are extended wait times, and actually now our conversations with customers are, despite the cost of living crisis, I feel much more availability led than price led.
Do you see that evolving? Well, I guess particularly we've seen it in terms of servicing, haven't we? And, people are able to spread the cost. People have been able to spread the cost of the vehicle purchase for some time. But do you think that value issue is you're going to come up against a few stumbling blocks there where the things don't marry up, the lack of supply and the lack of consumer spending power?
I think the key point there for me is really the word value and how we define that, because actually one thing we're really focused on is how we personalise what a customer needs from us to ensure that it offers value to them. I think you're absolutely right. We are seeing people buying into the likes of service plans, etc., to spread their costs. But also we're spending more time making sure that we're educating customers about different ways of financing their vehicles. Again, I guess coming back to the previous point around the flexibility and the convenience that our customers require. So for every customer, that might look different. But it's something that I think will continue to evolve. We don't see the kind of cost of living and the inflation pressures decreasing anytime soon. So it's something that we will continue to respond to.
It's about offering a mobility solution for them, isn't it? Whether that be loan, lease, subscription model, sale, or whatever. I think it's about offering that full solution so the consumer can get into the next vehicle.
Sorry, go on, Tim. Go fire away.
I was going to do a change of subject in a way, in that, again, as kind of major AM100 groups, you've both, the business have grown significantly in the last decade or so. Do you see that trend continuing? Is scale still an answer for motor retailers, and will the big only get bigger? I'd be interested in your views on that.
I think so. I think we will continue to see consolidation throughout the industry. I do think that scale's really important.
I think there'll be lots of opportunities for consolidation over the next 2 years.
When you're acquiring, though, how quickly are you able to integrate and get the new businesses up and running and adopt the culture of the acquiring business, or merge of culture, I guess? What are the challenges and opportunities in that?
Well, Cambria was built on a buy and build strategy, as you know, so buying broken businesses and accommodating and turning around very quickly with sort of 100-day plans. The platforms that we have now within the website means we can buy a business today. By tomorrow, we'll be live on a site and we'll have stock going out to third-party channels immediately. So that's very much an integration from the technical side. But then it's really sort of bringing the new associates, we call them associates or staff, with you, educating them in there, and just bringing the culture to them as well, understanding their culture. When we generally have bought broken business before in the past, we very quickly put in our own CSI from consumers that are buying from us, so we can understand how we can improve that service. And generally, you can get your answers very quickly of how you can do that. But I think there's a number of groups now that are used to the acquisition trail now, and have that plan to turn businesses around and make them profitable quite quickly.
I think for us, we're always very focused on the people part of any acquisition. I think for us, the merging of cultures, the importance of taking time to learn from the business you're acquiring, and understand, are we doing everything as well as we can be? Actually, what can we learn from this business? How can we kind of take best of both and make the business the best that it can be? So I think for me, having been through a series of acquisitions over the last few years, that the key thing that we've taken away really is every time taking the opportunity to learn, observe, and produce a best of both result.
I think we've probably moved towards wrapping the podcast up a little bit, but one thing that struck me about both groups, Hendy and Cambria, both got great brands, really exciting brands, be they luxury or performance. There's everything that people who are passionate about automotive like to see and work with from your point of view. I'll come to you first, Vicky. But I just wanted to know, before we sort of wrap things up, what's the most exciting marketing project that you've led? Because I mean, there must be. You guys have got Moke and Lotus, and there's all sorts of fun things. What have you done with the marketing department or social media that's sort of really captured the imagination? You've had a lot of fun with.
Gosh, that's a really difficult question.
Is it? I thought that'd be a really good, easy question.
It's a great question, but I guess in some senses you'd say I'm blessed because I work on some really exciting stuff, and the variety that comes with my role means that I've got, a lot of examples running through my head. I guess one of the examples you cited, working with Moke, has been a really exciting marketing project. As a UK distributor, we've got a kind of national territory, which is really quite unique in terms of our typical.
It's not Yorkshire, is it? It's South Coast, unsurprisingly.
But we can sell you a Moke in Yorkshire. Don't worry. That has really given us great scope for creativity. The team have all engaged with that really well and really enjoyed kind of working on some fun campaigns and things that are very different to those that we might work on with some of our volume brands. So as a recent example, I think Moke's a really good one. But as I say, we are blessed that we work on exciting projects all the time, and that's what keeps it fun and varied and exciting.
Well, we've given Ian a little bit of time to think about his
unfair
answer.
advantage. Yeah.
Unfair advantage, quite.
Glad you went first.
Come on, Ian. There must be something really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we work with some brilliant brands like Bentley, McLaren, Rolls-Royce are fantastic. But our biggest achievement to date is something called our own software, something called Engagement Pro, and that was all about understanding what the consumer was doing online before they raised their hand, so before they put a lead in, understanding what the consumer was looking at, and having the ability to understand when they made a telephone call where that came from on the website by using dynamic number inclusion, a facility to incorporate all emails, live chats, and just getting, for me as a marketeer, getting that overall journey has been our most exciting. And what was great for COVID was when everything shut down, our GMs were in the business because we was open for service for key workers. And we had the ability to go and speak to those GMs and train them. And we put in our city results and our last annual report that we've got our dealers now, our GMs become black belts of software. And that's amazing because, if anything, you can produce something, but the integration, it might not be there. Now we have this facility where I've got dealers now can see the whole journey, understand where their marketing is coming from, understand conversion, and then coming back to me and telling me. And for me, I think that's our biggest win in my career I've had from a marketing perspective, and having that view that to be anywhere, to have that visibility is a pleasure to work for.
Supercars and black belts at Cambria, Tim. What a heady combination that is.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Thanks, Ian. Thanks, Vicky. That's been really great.
Thanks ever so much for joining us. Yeah, it's been a great chat.
Thank you.
Thanks.